Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join Council in singing O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the tragic events at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut this past Friday. When we're faced with the horrible reality of slain children and their teachers, I'm hard-pressed to think of anyone that could remain unaffected by this heartbreaking incident. Our thoughts and our prayers as a community and a council are with the students and the teachers of Sandy Hook Elementary and their families. I'll now give our opening prayer, followed by our moment of silence, and perhaps we can all think of them in our prayers and in our moment of silence. God grant us understanding and patience, that justice, truth, and honesty may be evident in our decisions. Make us mindful of the needs of the people throughout the town of Oakville. Help us govern with the wider community in mind, and so create in us a desire for progress and responsible action. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. We'll now begin the meeting proper. Madam Clerk, would you give the regrets?
We have regrets this evening from Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. Councillor, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Thank you. You have before you your minutes of the previous council meetings from November 19th, December 10th, and the confidential minutes of the closed session of council of November 19th. Are there any corrections? Is there a motion and a seconder? Councillor Johnston, Councillor Duddick, move approval and adoption of the minutes. All in favor? Opposed, if any? They are carried. It's now my pleasure to call your attention to the fact that on October 18th, 2012, the town was presented with a Gold Ontario Waste Minimization Award from the Recycling Council of Ontario. The award was given to Cindy Toth and Prab Banga of the town's Environmental Policy Department. And this was presented for municipal diversion, municipal communications, and municipal unique program. The town received the Gold Award for the successful implementation of our waste diversion programs, for our use of innovative communication tools such as e-talk and social media, and for our unique Toward Zero Waste procedure. And congratulations to you for bringing glory, fame, and honor to the town in yet another field. But there's more. They didn't stop there. They were also recently presented with the Milestone 2 Achievement Award while attending the Livable Cities Forum in Hamilton. Through Milestone 2, the town has gathered the necessary data and created a framework to guide the planning and implementation of climate change measures. The town of Oakville is one of 12 signatory municipalities working with ICLEI, the Local Governments for Sustainability to create a corporate climate change adaptation plan. Endorsed by Council in May of 2011, town staff is moving through a 5-milestone process. The 5 milestones provide a standardized means of calculating greenhouse gas emissions, of establishing targets to lower emissions, of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and of monitoring, measuring, and reporting our performance. So thanks again on behalf of Council. We appreciate the way you're moving our goals forward. So now,
These were the 2 awards you just announced.
I guess, should I present these to them?
That would be lovely.
All right. Let's see if I can do that. Well, why don't you come along? I got so much. I'll just warn you about this one. Kathy, do you want to bring the other one in? Oh, you're not going to be there?
Thanks for the offer.
All right. That brings us to, as I understand it, we have a number of delegations this evening, and I'd ask the clerk now to call the delegations for council.
The first delegation this evening is John McMullen, the Association of Oakville Harbor Stakeholders, regarding the 213 budget deliberations, item 1 of the Budget Committee meeting of December the 13th.
Welcome, Mr. McMullen. Council looks forward to your information, and that will adjust, sort of.
Going to try and clear a bit of room.
We have
here.
technical help right beside
No,
you
I don't
here.
need technical help, just need space. I don't want to compromise the computer. Okay, you all right? Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Okay. What is this? Good evening, Mayor Burton, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John McMullen, Chair of the Association of Oakville Harbor Stakeholders. As some of you are aware, AOHS has presented to the Budget Committee on 2 occasions. At these times, we welcome the opportunity to provide our comments and recommendations on the proposed mooring rates and related matters. For those of you who are not in attendance, I would urge you that you take a moment to review the AOHS presentations on our website at oakvilleboaters.com, as well as the large number of communications from boaters that are appended to the town documentation related to these meetings and that are on your own website. The Budget Committee has heard our thoughts and recommendations on a range of matters concerning the mooring rates. You will be happy to hear that it is not my intent this evening to replay or rehash all of that. Yes, the town and AOHS have different views on a number of issues. However, the rates for 2013 are set. Now is time to move on. When doing so, we take comfort in the knowledge that the mooring rates are to be reviewed annually, and that we will therefore have the opportunity to provide input to staff and to you as we revisit the rates in subsequent years. There are, however, a couple of outstanding issues that I would like to touch on. Most worrisome is a 25% premium on mooring rates levied on sailboat owners who do not store their boats with the town or a club during the previous winter. A number of individuals, mostly small boat owners, choose to winter store their boats at home or elsewhere because, yes, they can save money by doing so. Others may decide to have work done at another boatyard during the winter. No rationale is provided for this new, large, and we feel unwarranted premium or penalty. And while it is contained in the 2013 budget and the fees and rates tables, no notification was provided to boaters. Those boaters that are aware became so only through word of mouth. We commented on this penalty during our December the 6th Budget Committee presentation. No clarification or justification was provided at that time or since. To reiterate, the premium is unwarranted, and we respectfully request that it please be removed. Also worrisome is a new 5% surcharge on mooring applicants if their application and deposit are not received by January the 14th. And again, this is a new surcharge. And the deadline itself is earlier than in past years. So, taking the above, perhaps you will understand why the boating community is increasingly perplexed by what it views as the use of penalties rather than incentives. I would now like to comment briefly on the process followed with regard to establishing mooring rates and their approval. To be candid, and without wishing to be accused of hyperbole, AOHS and boaters are disappointed with the process and the lack of transparency. It appears that mooring and other harbor rates were approved early in the process, and that nothing we said, short of some minor changes to mooring rates after 2013, was going to make any difference. Why a public input meeting on mooring rates? Why the idea forum? Why invite delegations to the Budget Committee when the rate increases were preordained? And why was a staff memo regarding mooring rates tabled with Council without notification of boaters until some 2 weeks later? With this in mind, boaters may be excused for thinking that the town is not interested in their input or their satisfaction. For its part, AOHS has spent a great deal of time and effort on the rates issue, attempting to point out what we believed, at least, to be shortcomings. However, and as I've indicated at the outset, it is time to move on. As we go forward, I would ask that we work together in a more collaborative and transparent fashion, one that will benefit all parties. Let's also strive for pricing that is premised on competitive market value and not driven solely by a desire for cost recovery and price parity. Boaters are happy to pay fair and justified rates for services and facilities provided. AOHS furthermore recognizes the need to avoid debt and to not expect relief from the general tax levy. The issues of sedimentation, its source, and dredging have been raised on numerous occasions. We have suggested that developers contribute to the cost of dredging. The Mayor has stated that there is no legal or other basis whereby this may be possible. We have asked for and will be interested to receive the documentation that purportedly indicates that there is no option by which developers may be required to contribute to dredging, or to dredging costs, I should say. It's interesting, and conversely, we are aware of instances in other jurisdictions where developers have in fact been required to pay dredging costs. A mini dredge for Bronte Harbor is scheduled for 2013, although not until July and August. With the current water levels, our concern is whether or not all boats will be able to launch next spring and have access to and use their slips. And if not, what financial remedy will be available under their mooring permit agreement. Also mentioned on occasion are harbor's master plans. It has been acknowledged by staff that the existing ones are dated and, in accordance with the official plan, that new master plans are required for each of Oakville and Bronte harbors. It is important to keep in mind, I suggest, that the harbors are not only for the use of resident boaters. They're for everyone, visiting boaters, local residents, tourists, the local businesses, the community as a whole. Master plans will be invaluable inasmuch as they will provide a vision, a strategy, and action plans that will guide the future and the welfare of these common assets. Studies will soon be underway, the sediment management study, feasibility and capacity study, and a town survey of boaters now rescheduled for 2013. These will be valuable building blocks for the later development of master plans. Recognizing the importance of the master plans, we strongly urge that you set a timeline for their completion, perhaps by second quarter 2014, after the studies and survey noted above are completed and prior to the 2015 budget cycle. We also urge that you give consideration to the earlier request that you remove the 25% premium levied on sailboat owners who choose to winter store their boats elsewhere. Thank you for the opportunity to again present on behalf of the Association of Oakville Harbor Stakeholders. We look forward to working with the town of Oakville and to making our harbors desirable and the envy of other communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your information. Are there questions? Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, Worship. Mr. McMullen, we appreciate your somewhat sentimental comments and accurate comments and your points of view. We appreciate the way you presented them here this evening in what I would describe as a non-confrontational mode, and that's a good thing. Once our staff people come back from vacation, and I'm referring in particular to Chris Mark, if we were to arrange a meeting with those appropriate people, including Chris Mark, to answer some of the questions that you have raised here this evening, would that be of benefit?
Very much so, Councillor Robinson, and we do communicate frequently with Chris on a number of matters, whether it be the settlement management study. As you know, one of our representatives is on the technical advisory committee. So yes, we welcome all opportunities. Whether that addresses the two specific recommendations I've made tonight, namely the setting a time frame for the master plans, which I again suggest that they will be the linchpin to what happens with the harbors, and they're highly desirable. So I think it would be a good idea to set a time frame for those. The other one was the 25% premium, or excuse the expression, penalty levied to boaters who choose to store their boat elsewhere during the wintertime. And this has become a bit of a lightning rod.
So I'm prepared, Alan and I should say, are prepared to convene that meeting that I spoke about if there's interest on the part of AOHS, and it sounds like there is.
Definitely.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams?
Thank you very much for joining us again. And I was hoping that Councillor Robinson would make a bigger deal about his request for a report on the timing of the Harbours Master Plan coming back, along with his colleague from the same ward.
Well, I'm going to make that request for a report, but after the budget issue is over.
I realize that, but
was
I wasn't sure if our friends from AOHS were aware of that request coming.
Well, I think he's aware of it. Because
Okay, very good.
I think I advised him earlier today.
Then mission accomplished. Well done. And on the various other matters that were brought forward, we had many discussions over a number of them. I wanted to make sure that our staff had a chance to respond to some of the other questions around the surcharge and the timing surcharge, and to deal with the question of the dredging recourse if the dredging isn't deep enough for the boats in this particular location, what happens to them. I'm not sure if our staff are in a position to answer that tonight if Mr. Mark is not available tonight. But in any case, those kind of questions I think are ones that can be dealt with in a one-on-one.
If I may be allowed, Mayor Burton, thank you, Councillor Adams. On those issues, I wasn't necessarily expecting a discourse this evening, but again, welcome the opportunity to meet with Chris Mark on those various other matters.
And on the matter of the process and the timing that we go through, it's not the first time that we pre-approve the rates and fees that take part of the budget. All of the rates and fees are an important element of the budget that we have to pass, and we put that material out extra early this year and notified people extra early to make sure that we had the opportunity to have the kind of discussions that we were having. We may not have agreed with you in terms of reducing the rates, but we had those discussions. Thank you very much.
Mr. McMillan, thank you very much for bringing your information. I want to help you understand a couple of things. All of our master plans, including the Harbours master plans, are subject to approximately 5-year period reviews. At the appropriate time later in this meeting, I believe council will consider a request for a report from staff on the timing we can expect with regard to the completion of the current work on updating of the harbor's master plans. I do not believe that the staff will be able to, I don't believe that that report is going to say that they can finish it as soon as you just requested. But I want to caution you to be careful what you ask for. In the report on November 16th, which I know you have, I want to call your attention to the bottom of page 1 and just read you a brief little bit. Council has heard from stakeholders and some tenants that services must be enhanced to warrant the 6.5% increase in mooring fees and justify the move to market rate by 2016. The reality of the situation, and I stress this, is even with the 6.5% in 2013 and movement to full market rates by 2016, there will still not be enough funds in the reserve to undertake all the necessary capital replacement within the harbors or to repay previous debt charges for past equipment and dredges. As docks and infrastructure is replaced or are replaced, there will be a increase in quality to ensure the harbor assets are modernized and meet current standards. However, enhanced services, if desired by harbor's clientele, beyond what is currently provided and may be replaced, may only be attainable through other harbor revenue streams, new higher harbor revenue streams. And if you want to take the money, if you want council to forego the funds from the 25% fee or the 5% fee or any other piece, you're asking for that money to be shifted into the rates. So I caution you, be careful what you ask for. The reality is that the harbors, as a financial operation, are underwater, and we're going to get them above water. I hope we can do it in a spirit of cooperation and appreciation for the unique opportunity that the harbors provide local boaters through the AOHS. But if the AOHS mission is to prevent increases in fees and to also ask for increases in services and facilities, I can tell you you're going to be disappointed. So thanks for coming and repeating your message, but I would like to encourage you to think carefully about every request for more, because you're going to pay for it.
May I respond to the passage that you read?
Well, I'm not debating it with you.
I just want to offer some clarification.
Yes, you can offer some clarification.
The 25%, and if you take, let's say, a representative mooring cost of $1,500, we're talking $375. To an individual who has a small boat that they can trailer home and keep in their property or take elsewhere. You can please understand why those boaters, especially that class of boaters, who are not affluent by any means, regard that as a penalty. And it doesn't necessarily affect a great number, and the revenue is not necessarily large. It's more the optics.
If you're saying that the other boaters would shoulder that cost, it may be that staff can meet with you and determine that that's really what you're saying and bring a proposal to council to change it. But any change will be reconsideration and will require 9 votes. So, you know, have the discussion with staff. Our objective is to make the harbors pay for themselves. That's council's policy.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to work with you as long as that's the outcome. We're clear about the outcome and we're flexible about the method, I guess is what I'm trying to say to you. And Councillor Duddick has...
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Given the comments from the mayor, I think maybe I misunderstood, but my understanding of what you were trying to depart to members of council or make them understand is the boating sector did not understand the rationale or the reasoning behind what you saw as the 25% surcharge or premium or whatever. And so understanding what the purpose of that was and how it was factored into Hence why I think Councillor Robinson was saying having an open dialogue, roundtable discussion and understanding. Right now, I don't understand how that's seen as directing funds to another sector of the boating community. So, I mean, I look forward to hearing as to what the rationale behind it is. Maybe I misunderstood.
And again, if I may clarify the point, Councillor Duddick, first and foremost, the boaters are not aware. It's not being advertised. It is, yes, in the detailed fees and rate tables, but who, other than ourselves, delve into those? So, one, they were not made aware. No, those who now have become aware of it and concerned do not understand the rationale behind it. And I must confess, we're stumped as to what the rationale for a very hefty penalty on a few boaters who might choose to take their boats elsewhere. It is a totally new, and to our knowledge, not a surcharge used elsewhere.
Just supplemental, and did you also have, from what I understand, your concerns were the notification process, which I know we have, the town has done considerable work in regards to improving our public notification process. We're by no means perfect, nobody is, but if there is a lack of communication or a break in the process whereby we need to improve at either end, I think that discussion maybe with staff would assist in helping them understand what it is, would assist you in regards to the notification process. So thank you.
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMillan.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Diane Burton, again regarding the 2013 Budget Committee deliberations, item 1 of the Budget Committee meeting of December 13th.
Welcome, Mrs. Burton. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Diane Burton. I am a resident of Oakville.
We need a microphone to work here.
Is that it? Closer? Is that okay? Okay. I requested at the budget delegations that an amount of money, I suggested $150,000 per year, be allocated in 2013 and each year forward to be put into a fund to buy and preserve undeveloped green land as it becomes available for sale in Oakville, since lands with unpermitted zoning are less expensive than lands that have already been zoned for development. In the first instance, I am now requesting that this item be put forward for implementation in the 2014 budget, since obviously I've missed the 2013 request. In the first instance, I believe our town should have taken a more proactive stance on keeping the roads out of the natural heritage system. I believe it is now necessary to buy green lands to replace the lands being paved over by the maze of roads being placed adjacent to and within the natural heritage system boundaries. If the roads were to be limited and minimized in the NHS as designated in the bylaws, why was every major road that was planned but not approved in and through the natural heritage system in 2004 and reconsidered in 2007 now approved by the Town Council in the 2009 North Oakville Transportation Master Plan? These are all through vital ecologically sensitive lands. It was quite puzzling to me when at the budget delegation it was stated that no acres were being lost in the natural heritage system, because the deleterious effect of road and bridge construction on the ecology of nature lands is well known science. You cannot plow through rare forested sites of the 60 Mile Creek area of natural and scientific interest and high constraint streams and wetlands of the Glenorchy Conservation Area with a 4-lane major corridor that extends several kilometers and say no land is being removed from the use of nature. Pavement in natural lands is what I understand is lost land. Well, I'll skip over this, but I did want to say, could we also mention that the capital budget for the Oakville the Oakville Transportation Master Plan to build roads and infrastructure is planned at $739 million over the next 20 years. There's also an unknown amount of operational costs to be covered by to maintain and keep this system functional. The total cost for roads and traffic is almost $1 billion. Could we not put some money aside to buy green space? I also see an acute disappearance of standing green infrastructure throughout our town as the infill development is overtaking many of our older neighborhoods. The worries about the loss of mature trees on individual lots that were once used to build large homes have been replaced by a reality of blocks of such lots being replaced by townhouse and condominium developments, filling these lots from sidewalk to sidewalk. As the number of these infill lots increase in size and scope, I truly believe we will run out of oxygen as so many trees are felled. Can we wait until 2057 for a tree canopy to grow up from the tiny shrubs, saplings, and lollipop trees that are being put along the roadways to replace the strong spreading branches of all the century trees and the wooded lots that are being cut down throughout the town? It's also very distressing to see most of our councillors, with the exception of Councillor Damoff, Councillor Bird, Councillor Elgar, and Councillor Lapworth, vote to put in place the process to remove 730 more acres of green fields from the Parkway Belt Westlands, just north of the Queenie from 3rd Line to Bronte Road. I'm really saddened by the abandonment of protecting our green in Oakville, and I'm also puzzled by such denial by our council to see this as even a problem. Here is my final suggestion, since I'm having a bit of doubt of if my suggestions are useful. Could we put on our municipal tax form a voluntary donation line, perhaps $5 per payment, to be added to buy and preserve green lands in Oakville? If over the next 4 tax quarters, the request is ignored by the majority of our citizens, then I will see saving nature in Oakville is no longer a priority, and I won't come here and ask for this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you for your information, Mrs. Burton. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The final delegation this evening is Lillian Meyer, again regarding the 2013 Budget Committee deliberations, item 1 of the 2013 Budget Committee meeting of December 13th.
Ms. Meyer, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Sorry? Thank you. Hi, sir. My name's Lillian Meyer, and I've been a resident of Oakville since 1974. I'm a successful small business owner and fortunate enough to own a sailboat and be part of the boating community here in Oakville. I am compelled to express my frustration with the 2013 budget proposal and the subsequent process that unfolded, specifically as it pertains to the harbors. I'm not going to rehash why the proposed fee increases for mooring rates is unwarranted. I believe that the many voices of the boating community and stakeholders, as well as delegations, were quite clear on their views over the past few months. Which brings me to my point. Excuse me. Why did you not listen? Why waste resources and time on an online idea forum, which I took part in, when you did not listen? Our harbors were listed as 4th in overall rankings. Why waste time on meetings when you weren't listening? Why would you pretend and insinuate or elude us into thinking that our voices had any value or bearing to this decision-making process? Thus far, my rates have increased by over 22%, alongside the 6.5% increase that will result in close to a 50% increase in harbor fees in less than 10 years. This, on top of the regular 2 to 3% increase in other harbor-related fees, such as storage, haul-out, and launch. Now, I'm not just frustrated, I'm really frustrated. Your sole basis for justification to increase mooring fees was, and I'm going to use the past tense, as I don't believe there was any intent to deliberate these fee increases, as they are pre-approved, by Hampson. That was your report. It was my hope and belief that Council would explore and complete all due diligence before imposing this drastic, in my opinion, increase. In my opinion, what should have been completed and factored into this process, the sedimentation management study. Perhaps this would demonstrate the impact of development and source of sedimentation in our harbors, paving a path to, possibly, developers to offset this negative impact. Perhaps an alternative dredging method could be revealed and utilized instead of the current model. The results of such a study could have a substantial impact on the allocations of revenues currently supplied by the boating community. The other, feasibility and capacity study, which would investigate what challenges and opportunities lie ahead for Oakville's harbors. This also would impact how revenues from the boating community should be allocated. An updated current master plan with regards to Oakville harbors, and what I believe to be exceptionally important, the proposed boater survey to be completed. After all, what a substantial resource to tap into, your valued customers, your affected target group, those that are committed to and provide the financial resource of Oakville's harbors. I also want to point out that the harbors are not solely for the boating community. They are shared and enjoyed by all residents of this town, as well as those connected to Aspire waterways and our adjacent terra communities. Despite this large and diverse group, the financial costs associated with our harbors are carried on the backs of boaters. My time and the community's time are valuable. You are here because you're paid, elected, and supported by the residents who take the time to support you. You should take the time to listen. In my opinion, this budget process, as it relates to our harbors, was finished, in fact, before it was complete. In the future, and for the future of our harbors, I strongly recommend that there be a more collaborative approach to your consideration of all aspects that pertain to our harbors. I strongly recommend that you demonstrate transparency in your fiscal commitments to our harbors when allocating revenue generated by the boating community for the benefit of our harbors. That you utilize the time, the valuable time, that the boating community invests in this town, so that when a volunteer-based interest group, such as the AOHS, has a report, that you weigh it against your deliberations and against your own report. Boating and the harbors have a history of profitability in the past and can be so in the future. Though I may only be one voice from the boating community and one set of eyes, I will be watching the council's future steps and the process followed by which their conclusions and decisions are made. I will be an active voice investing interest in our harbors. Hopefully in the future you will heed suggestions and recommendations made by the community and exhibit a more collaborative and transparent approach with regards to our harbors, one that benefits the community as a whole as well as the community that financially supports them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your information. Thank you, ma'am. Is that the... All right, Council, that ends the delegations, and that brings us to our standing committee reports. And we have the 2013 Budget Committee first, and I'll turn to the Budget Committee Chair, Councillor Adams.
Give me a moment to get our technology working here. That's Q for... Is it possible to set it up from here? All right, I'm going over there apparently.
So basically, you're just going to open up the presentation for...
All right, we're having issues. Oh, I don't think I want to make changes. Okay, that's one. We're not up there. Is it on in for you? Apparently, I need a full name and initials below. It looks very yellow. Is it yellow on your screen? It's yellow on your screen. It's a little jaundiced, that's right. That's right, we'll go back to flashcards. while they are working at that, and are we showing that online as well? Apparently, this is the new town colors, guys. I'm sorry to say this, but we're going a shade of yellow. Okay. Are we better now? A little bit just better? Just? All right. Well, I will project. So, give me a moment here. Since we're adjusting everything here. So, on behalf of the Budget Committee, I'd like to share a few words about the recommended 2013 budget. As I share my comments with you about the hard work that's gone into the recommendations before you, I'd like to consider the strong financial position and the opportunity that our financial stewardship is now giving our residents to determine the kind of town that they want to leave to the next generation. You'll remember, members of council, that we have set for ourselves a guideline of keeping our overall tax increases in line with the rate of inflation for this term of council, and this budget does that. The 2013 recommended budget meets these guidelines, and the recommended town of Oakville property tax increase is 3.01%, which, when combined with the region of Halton and education portions of the property tax increase, creates an overall increase of 1.47%. And that is lower than the 2013 consensus forecast of CPI for next year, which is 2%. And it's also well below the core Bank of Canada inflation rate that was for Q3 of 2012 of 1.5%. And that's the most recently available full quarter. And our early plans for 2014 are also comparable to the forecasted rates of inflation. We're not pushing forward pushing off the cost of our projects and our operational budgets into the future. We're dealing with them today. This budget, like our last budget, is a sustainable budget. We're very proud to be providing services to residents that residents both need and value. And we're proud to be preserving important services for our local families, unlike in some jurisdictions where even core emergency services like fire are under threat. And we did listen to what citizens said. And while we had a limited number of residents at our open houses and at our Budget Committee delegations days, we had an outstanding number of residents who took part in our new online idea forum. Some of the top issues that received attention were the transit and the culture areas, and the recommendations of the committee spoke to both of these issues by recommending a number of changes to the various transit routes that we have, as well as adding a North Service route on a trial basis, and continuing what we found to be the very popular Free Monday Transit for Seniors program, and thank you for those who have pushed that forward. The committee also recommended a small increase to the arts grant program that we run through the Oakville Arts Council, and that's basically to keep it in line with inflation. And we're also keeping our house in order. Through the ongoing discipline of our annual 1% capital levy and the additional funds that this council added through the annual paving levy and the introduction of the local infrastructure levy, which is Oakville's share of the money that was being sent to Toronto through the GTA pooling, we now have a legacy of high quality infrastructure that I think we should be very proud of. We've reformed our funding for infrastructure renewal so that I think we're in a very, very unique position among municipalities. Our funding for replacing the infrastructure equals the rate of its depreciation, and very few municipalities are in that kind of an enviable position. Oakville's financial flexibility is also strong and it's growing. Our plan reduces the tax-supported debt this year by about $250,000, and you might find it interesting that 2 years ago our outstanding tax-supported debt was about $17 million. And we have plans to reduce it even further over the next 10 years. In fact, because of our infrastructure renewal programs, we're in a position where we will not need to use debt financing for our infrastructure renewal, and that's unlike an awful lot of municipalities that are out there. Our total debt is also, including the debt that's not supported by taxpayers, that will also be reduced this year by $4.7 million. And that provides us with additional financial flexibility in terms of dealing with the various capital needs that we have coming forward over the next 10 years. So all of this means that we really are not mortgaging our future or that of our children or our grandchildren. We're in a very good position with respect to our debt capacity. In previous years, I've also spoken about the cost of operating the new facilities that are being put into place, and that's a major impact on our budget. When I spoke to you about the 2012 budget earlier, I said that these pressures are going to be reduced in 2013, 2014, and that is true. This year, the cost of operating the new roads and parks and other facilities, including the first full year of the QEP Center, is going to be $1.1 million. Last year, the comparable figure for all of the new facilities was $2.7 million. So you can see that that pressure is slowly abating. The 2013 budget did face a number of key challenges, as it has in previous years. We face our own inflationary pricing pressures. Municipal inflation generally exceeds the CPI. For example, our personnel costs are generally based on negotiated contracts. Right now, some of those are between 2% and 3%. We also have construction cost increases that currently are in the order of 4.7% based on some of the most recent construction price index values. On program revenues, our staff were directed to maintain and improve the cost recovery on a long range of programs that we provide. The program revenues have been reviewed. The fee increases that we've been discussing were approved in Council in November and incorporated into this budget. Those changes amount to a $1.6 million increase in our revenues. We also reviewed our volume figures and added a number of new programs, and that provides an additional $1.2 million in revenue to offset the costs that would otherwise be borne by the tax levy. One other area I wanted to focus on is the planning, building, and development engineering revenue area, where while that is slowly recovering and increasing, we continue to recommend gapping a number of positions in that area. There's about 12 and a half right now that we are recommending to gap until the revenues come back. We'll also be watching the impacts of the regional allocation program. As many of you know, that is being delayed for the moment, and so we're carefully watching that, and we'll be ready to respond as required. One of the things I wanted to highlight to you was the way in which we're achieving our target of keeping tax increases in line with inflation, which is through the work that's being done behind the scenes, which very few people generally get to see. And the reason they don't get to see it or they don't care about it is that we've been looking at ways that are saving money both permanently as well as at the same time are basically immaterial in the sense of the impact that they have on the way the public receives their services. So this year, there's $1.2 million in reductions included in the budget. It's part of a multi-year review process that's targeting $3 million in permanent savings. I'm going to talk to you about the town portion of the total tax increase here. You'll see both the town piece, the regional piece, and the education piece. I'm going to focus on the town piece, but a third of that relates to the cost of maintaining our current services. That's the 0.98% figure relating to the town base operating budget. And everyone should note that that figure is well below the inflation numbers that I was speaking about earlier. In fact, it's about half the rate of the projected CPI figure for 2013 next year. About 2/3 of the Oakville increase relates to the renewing of the capital infrastructure. That's the 1% levy. So when you add all this together, you get 2.03%. So that's the 1% capital levy, the 0.17% road renewal piece, and the 0.86% tax shift from the region. All of this funding is dedicated to ensuring that our infrastructure doesn't crumble and that we're not passing those costs unfairly on to future generations. The 2013 budget includes total operating expenditures of $254 million. I won't go into the details, but you'll note that the majority of the costs relate to programs and services that are seen in the lives of our families and our residents and our citizens on a regular basis. They include the core services like the road maintenance, the storm sewers. They include the fire department. They include libraries, parks. They include recreation, the culture, the Oakville transit area, and many, many others. It's a long, long list of things that we do. And citizens should know that the expenses are not all funded by their property taxes. Only 60% of the property tax, only 60% of the funding comes from property taxes. And by comparison, 10 years ago, when a number of us, myself included, were first elected and joined council, 66% of the revenues came from property taxation. So there's been a slow shift downwards in terms of the share that property taxes are covering. The rest will come from a variety of sources, but most notably the various fees and charges for programs and services that we provide. In fact, this year, 24% of the funding comes from those sources. And of the $152 million in tax dollars being raised in 2013, the largest share actually goes to renewing our capital infrastructure, followed closely by the Oakville Fire Department. I'm going to talk very briefly about the capital budget. Of the nearly $55 million in capital funding in 2013, a substantial part relates to getting around. This is one of the items that we always hear about, improving our transportation. In fact, 5 of our 10 largest projects relate to road improvement, road maintenance, or transit. And finally, we did have some discussion about a number of capital projects at the Budget Committee, and those related to the Glen Abbey Community Center, the Iroquois Ridge Community Center, and the 16-mile sports complex improvements. And our staff will report to CSC with further information on the details of those projects prior to the tendering of them. Now, I'm going to talk to you about our forward-looking forecasts. Combined with the region and provincial shares, these will produce overall increases of 2.68% and 2.33% for 2014 and 2015, respectively. And as in previous years, we'll be reviewing these figures and these details of the forecast as we go forward, but I'm quite confident that we'll be able to improve upon the figures. And I want to tell you why I have that optimism. I'll tell you that our forecast last year for 2013, so replacing that 1.47, was 3%. And our 2-year forecast for 2014 was 2.8%. So we've already come down for the 2014, and you can see that our 2013 number is less than half of what we were previously projecting. So I'm quite confident that we'll do better. Now, before I conclude, I wanted to share this with all of you. This is a slide shown in Guelph 1 month ago. And it was shown by Mayor Karen Farbridge during her 2012 State of the City address. And in it, we are shown off in the last corner there. It's very tiny writing. But we are shown as the most affordable place to live among a wide variety of comparable municipalities. So first of all, it's nice to be seen as being number 1. But second, it's interesting to consider the various ways in which we compare ourselves to others, and others compare themselves to us. We have a very enviable financial position. We have very low levels of debt compared to other municipalities, and even lower if you compare us to the provincial and federal governments. Our tax-supported debt level is about 5% of our revenues. I understand the provincial and federal levels are more in the order of 212, 240%. So if people are worried about debt, it's not here that they should be worried about. Our tax increases are stable. They've been in line with inflation, and we have plans to continue that stability. We're in very good positioning for that. We have well-maintained infrastructure and financial plans to keep our roads, bridges, sewers, facilities, all from crumbling and literally falling to pieces like the Gardiner Expressway. And as was pointed out in Guelph, we're an affordable place. So Oakville's in a strong financial position, and we have a great future ahead of us. We can imagine all kinds of wonderful things that we could be doing in our future, and I think our residents should feel comfortable about where we are and where we can choose to go in the future. And we have many choices to make, and we have all the flexibility we need to have. So in summary, I'd like to thank, first of all, the members of our staff who have spent a great deal of time preparing the 2013 budget. In particular, I'd like to thank Gordon Lalonde and Nancy Sully for their work during the process. Nancy has a great team of professionals working with her behind the scenes. They're the various relationship managers during the process, and I'd like to name a couple of them. Catherine Hewitson is the manager of financial planning. She's a key person in assisting the entire process. She oversees the analysts, she reviews the operating capital budget submissions, coordinates the development of the documents. There's a number of senior financial analysts, including Dalibor Stankovici, Mary Argres Kirichuk, I'm sorry if I can't get the names quite right, Maureen Conley and Belinda Wiersma. They're the various managers senior analysts who deal with the various commissions or the capital budgets, and there are a couple of intermediate analysts, Mark Van Tonder and Amanda Abraham. and amongst them, they create a very strong team, and it's only because of that teamwork that we're able to make decisions on the kinds of programs, the quality of programs that we want. So we really need to thank them for that work. I'd like to thank the members of the public who have taken part either in person or online in providing their thoughts and their commentary to us. It really does drive the direction that this council takes over time. And finally, to you, my council colleagues, for the trust and support that you've shown me over the budget process. I also know that you've all taken the time to review the budget. You've taken part in public discussions. You've each had a variety of good questions that you've asked. I know that many of you have been involved in discussions with constituents. I've seen the kind of questions coming back out of those discussions. You've all represented your wards very well, and I appreciate that, and I think your constituents should appreciate that as well. So finally, the members of the committee, Mayor Burton, Councillors Dudek and Giddings, would you just stand up for a moment? Councillor Knoll is not here tonight, but the three of you all took part in this process, and I want to thank you for that. It takes a lot of effort and time to deal with all the things that you've dealt with. So thank you for the 2013 investment of time. In 2014, Councillors Elgar and Lapworth and Councillors Johnson and Mayor Burton, you guys are up next. Welcome to the process for next year. Look forward to that as well. And so, Your Worship, at the appropriate time, I'd be pleased to move the recommendations of the Budget Committee.
All right, so we'll have questions. Councillor Demoff has a question. Let me take your statement as you're moving all of the budget items in the agenda there.
That's correct, because we've got a number of dates there.
So all of those listed on page 3. And a seconder would get that. Councillor Elgar seconds. And Councillor Demoff, you have the floor.
Actually, the first is a comment because you went through a whole number of thank yous. And you deserve, Councillor Adams, a huge thank you from council, from staff, and from all the residents of Oakville on the work that you put into this. You spend countless hours, some of which the public sees, most of which they don't. And I just, on behalf of all of us, would like to extend a huge thank you to you for your personal commitment and for bringing us a budget that you have and for listening to people. And I mean, it just astounds me the amount of work that you put into it. So thank you from all of us. That's the first comment that I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And I am thrilled when I look at our budget to see the infrastructure money that we are spending. When you hear about Toronto with the Gardiner crumbling, and it's the kind of thing that isn't sexy to be spending money on roads, and yet we're doing it every year. And so as a result, our tax increase actually, in my mind, seems a lot higher than it really is because we're investing in the future and it's not operating cost to the town. So I think it's something that's really important, and it's something that all of us can take a great deal of pride in. Even in this fiscal environment, we're still able to bring in the free transit for seniors on Monday, which, as you know, I'm very, personally very happy about. So thank you very much for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
Any others? Councillor Bird.
Tom, could you go back a couple of these slides with the one comparing, you referenced the Guelph used in Guelph?
This one, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to read because of the small font, but
That's why I put the giant black arrow in.
My concern was the I guess the first line here, which is sort of relatively new comparables, which is as municipal tax burden as a percentage of household income. I get reminded on a fairly regular basis about taxes per capita or tax fees in the town per $100,000 of assessment. This is a relatively new one. Where would someone find those variables if they wanted to come up with their chart for those arguments?
These, I believe Guelph pulled all these figures out of the BMA studies. So these are, I believe, the most recent BMA municipal comparable studies.
Yeah, but is there a section I missed that I've read that's been coming out from years, but I didn't pick up on the idea that we were also comparing household incomes per municipality, and this is what this seems to come. The higher the income, you take the.
And this, I believe, this particular one includes. So first of all, it's perhaps the best way of getting apples to apples because it includes all of the municipal tiers, depending on where you are, and it also includes the water, some kind of estimate for water and the wastewater rates. So there's more to it than simply looking at the local lower tier element. But it does include this kind of comparable. It also includes comparables for a wide variety of other financial elements. It includes debt comparables. It includes revenue numbers. So I think one always has to understand what's happening in each of the municipalities to understand why one municipality is like the way it is.
Well, that's my point. The idea of household incomes, to me, seems like a rather new comparator to sell a particular story. Basically, the assumption is people here presumably have more income to pay the taxes, and of course that's another argument, because the concern that we've got right now, as you're aware, that people have just received their assessment notices and sort of shocked what their property values have gone up, but they start to compare that with throughout the province and whatever it is. I don't think this household income I've ever seen that been compared to the province. But that's a new one. If it's in that BMI study, then I'll look at it, because I'm intrigued by that. It also indicate that I guess the size of the household would affect that income per household as well. It's just a new variable or new comparative I've never seen used before. So thank you very much for using it, and we can play that back when people say where cost per capita is higher here than other municipalities. Whether we can use this as an argument is a new one. Thank you.
Very welcome. And Councillor Bird, you brought up an aside to the issue of the MPAC reassessments, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to remind residents that there are going to be two impacts on your property taxes. One is the property tax increases that a municipality will bring forward. The other is changes to your assessment, and generally speaking, people's assessments are going up, and it's not something that the local municipality controls. So we need to make sure that we maintain the message that we reduce our tax rates as the assessment numbers go up. So we don't get a windfall. This isn't a message for you. This is a message for anybody else.
Thank you. I've been arguing for a great number of years that we use the figure $100,000 in comparative assessments. Before, we used to use average tax per household. And quite frankly, within the town, various communities, the average house or the median house is completely different in one area within our municipality. But what is common is $100,000 of assessment, and let people do the math. So I'm glad we're working on this. This was another variable, what our average household income was and how that affects your percentage you pay a property tax. I understand the argument. I don't know how valid it'll be, but it's an interesting slide.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Others? Councillor Adams has moved, and Councillor Elgar has seconded the budget items. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And the budget is adopted. Congratulations, Councillor Adams. Council, I wonder if I could be permitted to take a minute to speak about the budget we've just passed. The three unifying themes of what we've done together for 6 years are controlling growth, catching up on facilities, and making growth pay the maximum amount of its costs. We're doing all of this with a clear mandate from our voters and careful, extensive public consultation that reaches out to the broad public, not just to special interest groups. We provide everyone with direct contact with town staff and council members. The result is greater understanding and consensus. This is our 7th budget together on the path we've chosen to make and keep Oakville Canada's most livable town. Last term, we worked to significantly reduce our facilities deficit. But first, we moved to make our finances smarter and stronger. This allowed us both to add facilities and to slow down the annual growth in the property tax levy. We increased development charges to maximize the revenue we collect for growth. This let us reduce tax-supported debt. That reduced interest expense. We were instrumental in persuading the provincial government to stop requiring Oakville taxpayers to subsidize the City of Toronto's taxpayers with $17 million a year of Oakville taxpayers' money. We adopted performance-based program budgeting to replace the old departmental budgeting and to create a corporate culture of value and efficiency seeking and achieving. Of all we have done and achieved together, this business-like conduct of the town's work is what I am most proud of. We knew we had a lot of work to do. As a direct result of our increased focus on efficiency, effectiveness, and value, we have freed up existing funds to put toward our goals. We made fire response times faster. We increased our road maintenance to reverse the continual deterioration in road quality. We increased personal mobility by creating grid-based transit routes in place of the old radial route system. We increased the care of and the amount of our parks and open spaces for a more beautiful, better-kept appearance for our town. We added recreational facilities to enable the more active lifestyle that our families need and want. We increased resources for our public libraries, and we increased the defense capacity of our planning and legal teams to prevent unsuitable development in inappropriate parts of our town. These improvements represent about $42 million above inflation in increases to our base budget. Let me now give you some comparisons between Oakville and the rest of the municipal world, at least in Ontario. As of 2011, we had the 7th lowest tax rate of the 84 largest Ontario municipalities. And our trend is for continued lower tax rates. By 2014, our tax rate will be about 12% lower than it was when this term of council began in December 2010. We enjoy one of the highest levels of services and facilities in the country, and yet, in 2011, our property tax levy per capita was only the 24th highest of the 84 largest Ontario municipalities. Those with a lower tax levy per capita have fewer services and facilities. We are providing the services and facilities that Oakville voted for by a wide margin, and Oakville expects us to deliver. And we do that with unrelenting pursuit of value. This budget is the best we've done on the tax control front, with no cuts to services or facilities, rather increases. We are actually becoming more affordable while we do this. The chart that Councillor Adams showed you, we used to be 4.2%, not 4% of household income. So that's a small movement in a positive direction. This performance shows how effective our fiscal controls are becoming. In fact, we had the second best financial position per capita in Ontario last year, and no municipality our size or larger is better. So where does this budget take us? Directionally, we are making great progress on our path to be Canada's most livable town. We are not in a recession. Unemployment in Oakville is low. Employment is high. The future is ours for the making. We decide what we do and provide for ourselves, and thus how much we will pay. And there are more opportunities ahead to reduce pressure on the taxes we pay. If we want to do that, we must turn our attention as council and as a community to asset performance. We can have an even more affordable tax structure if we can turn non-performing assets and underperforming assets into better performers. A second fiscal opportunity relates to growing the Oakville economy. High-value economic development helps us achieve our goals. Offices pay more tax than homes. We are welcoming such world-renowned corporate offices as Siemens and PwC and many others, and they will attract more. We are on our way to adding 3 million square feet of offices in Midtown, Burl Oak, North Service Road, and the Life Sciences Business Park. We expect at least 15,000 jobs from 3 million square feet of offices. Plus, we are developing business bridges to China to help with the goal of growing our economy. Later this winter, we will convene an Asian Opportunities Business Conference to make sure that Oakville businesses have every opportunity to participate in the coming economic boom from China's new 5-year plan. In conclusion, Council, you and our town staff and our Budget Committee and its chair deserve credit for how well we are doing. Thanks to our policies and staff's diligence, our residents are able to take for granted facilities and service levels other communities do not provide. We have earlier snow clearing, more frequent parks and boulevards mowing, household leaf collections, sidewalk plowing, faster fire response, faster grid transit system, much greater amounts of parks and open spaces, more and better recreation facilities, fully funded infrastructure renewal, and all the rest of what makes Oakville, Oakville. And if anyone will name us another municipality in North America that's better run, I know that first we'll learn from them, and then we'll become better than them. Because in everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo to find continuous improvement in efficiencies and amenities so our families will enjoy living in Canada's most livable town. How we challenge the status quo is by controlling growth, debt, and taxes to only what fits environmentally and economically, by saving green space and planting trees to reach our 40% canopy goal by 2057, and by adding the community facilities we lived without for too long. We've already added 800,000 square feet of overdue community facilities to the previous total of 1.1 million. That's an increase much greater than CPI. We will make our 2015 donation to the cost of our new hospital without using taxes for it, thanks to new non-tax revenues we will have from renewable power projects. And by 2017, we'll complete phase 2 of our future facilities needs. We constantly strengthen our finances to make all of our progress affordable. We focus on moving down the rate of increases of both the residents' total property tax bill and the rate of increase of the total property tax levy by relentlessly pursuing increased efficiency. And I'll show you how much progress we've made on that front. From 2002 to 2006, the total property tax levy increased an average of 7% a year. In my first term as mayor, it averaged 5%. This term, it will average under 3% a year. People like the way we have not sacrificed our valued town and region services in achieving our 7, 5, 3% direction in reducing the rate of growth of the total property tax levy. What we're creating is a cleaner, greener, healthier, safer, more beautiful, more mobile, fiscally stronger, and more livable town with lower rates of growth in population and taxes and declining tax-paid debt. Our steady focus on increasing efficiency, value, and livability is going to keep paying off for everyone. Our work on strengthening and conserving our financial conditions will allow us to complete the next stage of our community facilities catch-up program. In the next term of council, I look forward to being there with you to cut the ribbons on those new community facilities after we acquire the old hospital and the old OTHS sites, and after we complete the public consultations and designs there and at Trafalgar Park and North Park. I'm positive that with the guidance we get from our vigorous and responsive consultation of the public at large and our many vibrant and active residents associations and the community groups, that we will continue to be successful in meeting our vision of making Oakville the most livable town in Canada. And it has been great working with you on that path. So thank you very much for allowing me these remarks. I now turn our attention to our discussion items. To our standing committee reports, the Community Services Committee of December 11 and the Administrative Services Committee of December 11. And Councillor Johnston moves adoption. We need a seconder. Don't be shy. Councillor Adams. Are there any separations? All those in favor? Opposed? The committee reports are adopted, Madam Clerk. Now we come to our discussion item, the quarterly update and shareholder approval from Oakville Hydro. And you have a report from the Commissioner of Corporate Services, and the recommendation is that the presentation from the President and Chief Executive Officer of Oakville Hydro Corporation regarding the quarterly report would be received, which we're about to have, and that the confidential resolution contained in the letter to the Commissioner that you have be approved. With that, I'll welcome our President, Rob Lister of Oakville Hydro Corporation, for his quarterly report. Mr. Lister, we're in your hands now with our yellow screens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Tonight we're going to do a presentation on customer satisfaction at Oakville Hydro and conservation and demand management. And I'm going to ask Julie Millington, our Vice President of Customer Services and Organizational Development, to come up and present. Julie?
No, I think I'm okay. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Mayor Burton and members of council, for providing me the opportunity to present you with this information. Customer satisfaction is one of our corporate goals at Oakville Hydro. Earlier in 2012, we had a third-party company conduct a satisfaction survey for us. Both residential and small business customers were contacted via telephone, and this is the information that we put on to our online information for customers to see an overview of the results. Oakville Hydro obtained an overall satisfaction score of 92% versus the Ontario score of 88%. I'd like to take a moment to play a message that we received from one of our customers. It shows how every department within Oakville Hydro is trying to provide positive customer experiences in every interaction that they have. The individuals involved here were field representatives John Castillo and Tim Ellis.
Lil, my name is Ben Kantarovich. I'm at 95 Brant Street, and I can only say that that Oakville Hydro is an exemplary utility company. I sent in a concern on the weekend. I got called this morning, and I actually had two of your field technicians in an Oakville Hydro truck show up about an hour ago. What time is it now? 2:40. They came in, they figured out the problem, they fixed it, they were polite, they were knowledgeable, they were, I just cannot thank you enough, and I'm a very happy customer who is very pleased to be using the services of Oakville Hydro. Thank you. You have, rarely does somebody get service this good and people this polite. 95 Brand Street, Ben Kantarovich. Cannot thank you enough. You guys absolutely are awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I did receive his permission to use that. So a way to further improve customer satisfaction, we've developed a customer engagement program for 2013 to address the findings that have come out of our survey. On the conservation and demand management front, Conservation Demand Management is a provincially mandated initiative that is designed to reduce electricity usage, shift consumption to our non-peak times, such as evenings and weekends, and reduce the need for power generation plants in Ontario. The Ontario Power Authority published the confirmed and finalized 2011 provincial results for the conservation programs, and the results have far exceeded the OPA's forecasts and are considered a great success. I've had the opportunity to communicate with all of the council members over the past week regarding the Peak Saver Plus program. We launched it last week at Oakville Hydro. really appreciate your support on this program. Just so you're aware, for every 1,000 participants that we have in the Peak Saver Plus program, it represents about 3% of our demand savings targets at Oakville Hydro. And as of the end of last week, we have a total of 159 appointments already booked, and we have done over 16 installations completed, so we are definitely off to a good start. I have provided a brand new brochure to each of you on the Save on Energy at Home programs that are available. Additional copies can be provided for your use if you'd like to be able to provide them to your constituents, and we will be making them available to customers around Oakville. On the business programs, conservation programs for businesses, there have been some important changes to some of the conservation programs offered through the OPA. The Small Business Lighting Program that offers free lighting equipment upgrades has been increased this month from 1,000 in free equipment to 1,500. For customers over 50 kilowatts, we've recently started offering free no obligation energy assessments. And it's to help them identify some energy saving opportunities, but also let them know what programs that they might be able to qualify for. We've recently introduced a financing program in conjunction with RCAP Leasing, and it allows qualified customers to take out a loan to purchase the equipment that they might need and be able to have it billed on their Oakville Hydro bill when they make their repayments. I have also provided a copy of this brochure, which includes all of the information. I will, however, let you know the information that I've shared, the changes in the program since they're new, are in the process of being redeveloped, and so I will have copies in the new year of the new revised program, but wanted to make sure you had copies available for currently. We are making a concerted effort in 2013 to ensure that homeowners and businesses are aware in the community of the importance of energy conservation and to know what programs that are available to them. As you can see, this is one of the, or a couple of the posters that will be displayed through the schools in Halton. We've been working closely with the local schools and helping to spread the message of conservation. We're also working on increasing our local advertising. In December, we have banner ads on the Weather Network on the City of Oakville forecast page, and these have been seen by well over 1,000 people every day. So far in December, we've displayed over 64,000 ads, and the Weather Network has told us that our click rate is 4 times higher than the national average. So this has been a successful campaign for us. And I will be providing more information on our marketing and promotional plans in the new year. The CDM programs facilitate a direct investment in our town by the Ontario government through investments and incentives and the programs that they offer. Joint investments by business and government strengthen our local economy and create a more competitive environment, helping to create a more livable and sustainable future for the town of Oakville residents and reach our conservation targets together. I thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, Ms. Millington. Are there questions? I hope, Councillor Khan, I hope everybody signed up for Peak Saver Plus. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much. Just a question to start off with. Doesn't Rob Lister live at 95 Bryant Street? No, he doesn't. I know that for a fact.
He's disguising his voice.
He's certainly in my word. So, my question dealt with. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I was reading an article on a few municipalities in the States where they actually have a sort of an app that sends homeowners information on when is the best time to use their utilities or do their laundry. Do we have something like that, or are we looking into that?
We're definitely looking into more ways to get information out to our customers. There are tips on here about how to do that. We've been talking about social media programs. There are apps available on cell phones, improve usage of our website. And so we're definitely working on improved communication and getting information out to customers. Absolutely, headed in the right direction.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Ms. Millington. You mentioned that in the province, the demand pricing has had the change that they were after.
Yes.
Can you give us the details in terms of what Oakville residents have done in terms of shifting supply?
Absolutely. We have our target for demand savings in 2011 was 2%, and we reached 2.24, which is about 10% of what we were trying to achieve in the first year, and of our overall target, which exceeds what we were trying to achieve in the first year. And our target for gigawatt was targeted at 7.5, and we reached 26.94 gigawatts, which is over 35% of our target. So we've definitely been seeing improvements.
Great news, thank you. In terms of where do we go from here, obviously it's easiest to get the people to shift at the front. What do we do to keep them running the dryer after 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is communication, education, and getting the awareness out. Making sure our customers and consumers are aware of the savings that they can achieve by providing improvements like you had suggested on being able to click and see what consumption that they're saving. We are improving our e-care system, which is our online, where people can actually go in and they can see consumption based on time throughout the day. So I think a big piece is just education, keeping people aware of the programs, and keeping them involved.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to watching my Peak Saver when it's installed.
Councillor DeMoff.
Thank you very much for your presentation and also for taking the time to call all of us and explain Peak Saver. Could you take a couple minutes just to explain to people that might be watching what the Peak Saver Plus program is?
How
and
the
also
program works?
Along the same lines about, as Councillor Khan was asking about apps to give you hints, you had mentioned you get a handy little device to give you a sense of when you're saving energy. So maybe explain that as well if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So the Peak Saver Plus program runs from May 1st to September 30th on an annual basis. The program is from 12 noon to 7 p.m. and we do maximum of 4-hour allotments per event. And basically, when Oakville Hydro is notified by the IESO that peak consumption is starting to reach high levels, they'll ask us to invoke an event. So anyone that is on Peak Saver Plus program will cycle their air conditioning over that 4-hour period of time, on and off, to try and reduce consumption, to reduce the requirement for as much energy need is out there at the time. We also can do electrical, hot water, and pool pumps, which basically means that they'll switch the pump off for that 4-hour period of time or turn off the heater for that period of time. We have 2 different pieces that people will be provided when they sign up for the Peak Saver Plus program. One is an in-home display, and so that's the display you're talking about. And you can actually, when you turn your lights on and off, or when you turn on your washing machine or dishwasher, you can see your consumption go up and go down based on the usage in your home. It also helps people with phantom power usage, because sometimes you think you have all your lights off and there's something, a light left on somewhere in your house, so it gives you the opportunity to know that consumption is still being utilized and sort of ensure that you're saving as much as possible. And we're also doing programmable thermostats for anyone that signs up for the Peak Saver Plus program as well, and we will install them in your home, and it allows you to schedule the time when your heat comes on, when your air conditioning comes on, to try and set them for the non-peak periods where possible.
And during our conversation, you had mentioned that the number of times that you need to go in and actually take advantage of that Peak Saver are fairly rare, right?
Absolutely. Last year, we actually only had 2 events in Oakville. The previous year, there were 4 events in total. But it definitely makes a difference when we have the ability, but it really doesn't interrupt people's lives. And they also, if you're having a party and you need to be taken off in the event that you think, it's starting to get hot out, you're going to be inviting a lot of people over, you can give us 24 hours notice and you can be taken off for that period of time as well. So we try to make it as flexible as possible while also getting people engaged and helping us save energy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demoff. Thank you, Ms. Millington.
Thank you.
Mr. Lister?
That was all we were going to present tonight, unless there are any other general questions.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Council, you have the recommendation before you. Is there a mover? Councillor Elgar? Councillor Grant seconding. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Oakville Hydro, for all that you're doing for us, and thank you for being here. Council, we now have our second discussion item, and that is the procedure bylaw amendment to allow recorded votes in committee of the whole that was moved by Councillor Elgar and seconded by Councillor Lapworth. This, of course, is well known to all of us here. Councillor Elgar, do you want to speak to this in any way?
I do believe it's more of a housekeeping item. I think the committee previously had approved procedure so that we could have recorded votes in committee of the whole, but we learned recently there was a little bit of a chink in the armor in that we could have a recorded vote, but in fact it does not record it. So this is just more of a housekeeping issue. So I'm hopeful that everybody will support this tonight.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Now, Council, you have your information items which have been circulated electronically. You've got your status of outstanding issues, and we have some new business. I think the first one is Councillor Giddings, and seconded by Councillor Dudek. And Councillor Giddings, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be sending out information to all of council over the next week in preparation for our next council meeting. It's from the Halton Food Charter. Those of you that are on regional council will have seen this, and it's moving it forward through the town.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. So this is a notice of motion. It doesn't require any action here tonight. And at our next council meeting on January 21st, we'll have this on the order paper. We now come to regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. Councillor Demoff? Pardon, you have new business? All righty. Well then, bring it forward.
On January 1st, here in Oakville, the largest charitable polar bear dip in Canada is held. And this year it's being billed as the $1 million dip because funds raised for World Vision Canada for water projects in around the world. Actually, this year they're in Rwanda, but it will surpass $1 million that have been raised. So I would like to extend an invitation. Councillor Dudek is actually joining me this year, and we're going to be braving the icy waters of Lake Ontario. So I'd like to extend an invitation to my council colleagues that if you would like to join us to dip, you are welcome to. If you're not quite as brave as Councillor Dudek and I are, you can still, you can sponsor us. You can come down and take part of in the festivities. There's a few thousand people that come down just to watch, so we would love to have your support, and I invite you all to join us January 1st for the Courage Polar Bear Dip in the afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure a good time will be had by all. Especially when I remember the Courage brothers describing to me how the thing came to be invented in the first place. The hangover cure, as I recall. Any other new business? If not, we have requests for reports. Oh yeah, I've got this one. So, Councillor Robinson, you have two requests for reports. Would you like to speak to
Yes, sir.
and they're both seconded by your colleague, Councillor Johnson. Yeah. Councillor Robinson.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Alan Johnson, that staff be requested to prepare a report addressing traffic and parking issues on Fox Run Circle.
Okay. Council, this needs our approval because it's apparently going to take more than 2 hours of staff time. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's approved.
Second one, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Alan Johnson, that staff be requested to report back on the timing of the update to the Harbour's master plan.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Also approved, Councillor. Any other requests for reports? All right. Then we need a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. And I have Councillor Duddick and I have Councillor Johnston. Thank you. This is authority for bylaws 2012-109, re-ASC item number 1. And that is the bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy in 2013. And also bylaw 112, a bylaw to amend bylaw 1984-1, the traffic bylaw. And that was covered in community services, item 2. And 114, a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers. And 115, a bylaw to dedicate certain land as part of a public highway on Hayes Boulevard and Post Road. And bylaw 116, a bylaw to delegate authority to permit the use and occupation of municipal right-of-way or portion thereof and enable fees for such permits. And bylaw 117, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2006-5, the sign bylaw, which was the Administrative Services Committee item 10, which hopefully will serve as a lasting compromise between those who want no election signs and those who would like some. This bylaw will restrict election signs to our 4 classes of arterial roads for public property. They'll still be allowed on private lawns. Also, bylaw number 118, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2010-185, being a bylaw to make appointments to the Board of Management for the Kerr Village Business Improvement Area. And also a similar bylaw to make number 119, to make appointments to the Board of Management for the Downtown Oakville Business Improvement Area. And bylaw 121, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2005-26, the Oakville Taxicab Licensing Bylaw with respect to license fees. And finally, 122, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a meeting of council. All those in favor? Opposed? The bylaws are adopted. That completes our agenda. Thank you very much for your time and attention. It's been great working with you, and we are adjourned. Merry Christmas.